Alright, welcome back to the rules video for Student Bodies by Angry Dog Games and Smirk and Daggers. The first thing I'm going to show you guys is the different types of cards that are in the game, and then we'll go ahead and show you the rules. Alright, so let's have a look at the item cards. This item is the skateboard, so that's the item that Dodge will start the game with. You can see first the name of the card and at the top, and then on the bottom part on the left you see that the ability of the card is actually an action, and you see next to it the ability of the card. So you can see that that little running yellow man is the stamina symbol. So this tells you that you're gonna need to pay 1 stamina to use the ability of the card. So the stamina is on the player board on the right side here. So if you need to pay 1 stamina, you simply drop by 1. You have only 3 for every player turn you play. So you need to manage those. The ability of the skateboard is move 2. So if you pay 1 stamina, it's gonna allow you to move 2 squares. If we have a look at the tuba, the difference here you're gonna see is, first of all, right here it shows you it's a weapon. So you can only have 1 weapon equipped at a time. So you have spaces for up to 3 cards. One of them being a weapon or an item, and the other 2 are only for items. So you can only equip 1 weapon at a time, and up to 3 different cards. Everything else will be put in the backpack on the player board. We'll get back to that later. So just know for now that the tuba is a weapon, and that specific item has 2 different actions. So the first ability it has is an attack. It says push an adjacent enemy 1 space and knock it down. Then spawn a zombie at the nearest spawn point. So this tells you a couple of things. So the first thing is you push an adjacent enemy. So what is an enemy? In this game, everything that's not you is an enemy. So other players and zombies, all the same enemies. So you can push an adjacent enemy. This tells you that you can move it. So let's say Abigail has the tuba. She can use that ability to push one of the adjacent enemies, so either of those zombie, 1 space. So this tells you if she decides to push this one, she can push it in any adjacent unoccupied space. So anywhere there are no other zombie, no player, you can just push it in that space, like this. So that's the first ability. The second one is also an attack, and it has the little trash icon, so it tells you need to discard the card to actually use that ability. And it says bash an adjacent enemy. So you can imagine that she just breaks the tuba on the head of the closest zombie. So in that case, you would choose either of those zombie, attack it, or bash it, as they call it. So you simply remove the zombie from the game and place a corpse token where the zombie used to be. So a player attacking a zombie in this game automatically hits. There are no dice roll, no anything. You just kill it in 1 shot and replace it with a corpse token. So that's what would happen, and then you would throw away the tuba because you break it down on the zombie's skull. One thing you should know about the cards that have 2 abilities is that you can only use 1 of them each turn. So if we have a look here at the player board, usually the tuba would be in the weapon slot right here. If I use the first ability, I'm gonna tap the card. I'm not sure you're supposed to say tap, but whatever. Just flip the card. So you know that you use it this turn, so you can't use it anymore. You can't use the same action twice, and you can't use both of them on the same turn. The only exception being with a card just like tuba is if you use the first skill, the one that doesn't have the trash icon. You tap the card and you can't use it anymore. But any ability with the trash icon can be used even though the card is tapped. So in this case, I could use the first ability to push one zombie one space and then add a zombie in the closest spawn point. So in this case, if she used it to push the zombie here, she would then add a zombie in the closest spawn point. And then she could still use the trash ability because that's a special rule about the trash abilities. So you're going to get rid of the tuba afterwards, but you could bash the other adjacent zombies. So that's the special rule about the trash icon. If you have two different abilities on one card, but neither of them have the trash icon, you can only use one of them each turn. So that's one thing to know. If we have a look at the player board now. So you can see on the left side right here, you have the backpack. So this is where you're going to store the additional items. So if you have more than 3 items at one time, you need to place everything that's not currently equipped on the left side of the player board, so in the backpack. So you can't use those items until they're equipped in one of the bottom 3 slots. Speaking of those slots, the first one can contain either a weapon or an item, and the other 2 can only have items, which, as I was saying in the setup video, means you can only have one weapon at a time equipped, and up to 2 other items or 3 items at one time. Just above this section is where you're going to put your health markers. So every player starts the game with 5 health points or hit points, and when you lose all 5 of them, you die. If you did not find the antidote before that, you turn into a smart zombie, so you would flip your player board over. As you can see, you have some nice art here. If you had found the antidote before dying, then you simply die because the antidote prevents you from turning into a zombie. So you die and you're eliminated from the game. On the right side here, you have the stamina track. So every turn you're going to start with 3 stamina. That's your resource or your what you can use to do actions. As you can see, you could go up to 5 with either items or special action cards. So you have space to go up to 5, but usually you're going to start every turn on 3, spending them. Eventually you're left at 0, and if you can't play any more action cards, then you just pass and the next player goes. The player boards are very well made. As you can see here, you have the turn order for every player, and then you have the detail of how the zombie step works out right here. So if you're unsure on your first couple turns, you can just refer to your player board and everything's right there. So now I'm going to go into more details as to how the turn order works. As I said earlier with the item cards, every time you use one of them, whether they're weapons or regular items, if you use them, you need to tap them. So you can't use them anymore for the rest of the turn. So the first thing you're going to do every turn is prepare or ready all your items. So you're going to untap them. So put them back in the on the right way so that you can play them this turn. And this is where you can change what you have equipped. So if you have items in your backpack, you can decide what you're going to equip for this turn and prepare those items. The second step is the zombie step. So on each player's turn, the zombies will activate. So I'll get into more details as to how that works in a little bit, but just know that the zombie move every single player turn. So we'll get into more a bit later on. The third step is the actions or moving step. So that's where the player actually plays his turn. So you're gonna play action cards. You're gonna use your stamina to move around and attack zombies and everything. So that's what the player actually will do on his turn. And the fourth step is the cleanup step. So this is when you're gonna draw, or you can discard some of your action cards if you want to get rid of some of them. Then every player will draw up to their hand size which means if you played cards during another player's turn, you can, at the end of their turn, you can draw your hand back up to 5. So you get more cards for the next player's turn, or your turn if you're playing next. And then the current player will reset his stamina, so he's ready for the next turn. And then he's done, next player goes. So if we go into a little bit more details on the second step, the zombie step, we'll see how they play out. Because they work with an AI, so they have a list of priorities. So at the beginning of every zombie step, you're going to reveal the top card of the zombie deck and just resolve whatever that card says. So if we have a look at Billy, or that's the first zombie card I drew, yeah, you can notice right away it's a basic card. You have on some cards you have the backstory of that actual zombie, so that's Billy. That icon here, it's also on the player board right here. You can see it. Tells you that the zombies on the board will get actions. So since there's a 1 here, it tells you every zombie on the board gets 1 action. And some cards have a special rule on the bottom. So this one tells you to ignore obstacles this turn. So that's a lot of different information for now. So we'll get back to that special rule in a bit. If we have a look at the second zombie card, so this one has no specific zombie information, but it tells you every zombie will get 2 actions, and then you will add 2 more zombies or spawn 2 zombies, and then give each of them 1 action. So that's the 2 different icons you can see on the zombie card. So when a zombie gets an action, or for every action a zombie gets, you need to go through a list of priorities to see what each zombie will do. So the first thing a zombie would do is, if he's lying on his back, he will stand up for 1 action. So if that zombie was on her back, her only action this turn, because she gets only 1 action, would be to stand back up. If the zombie is not on his back, his second priority is to attack an adjacent player. So if Dodge was right here and she was on her back, that zombie would attack Dodge with 1 action. That zombie would get back up, and she would not attack Dodge because she has no additional action. If she had 2 actions, then her first one would be to stand back up. The second one would be to attack Dodge. That zombie would attack Dodge twice. If the third priority, if the zombie cannot attack an adjacent player, is to move towards the nearest player. So if Dodge is right here, that zombie would move 1 space, not 1 square, but 1 space closer to Dodge, and so would that zombie. If the zombie cannot move closer to the specific, to the closest player, because let's say Dodge is on the other side of an obstacle, the special rules about the obstacles is, instead of simply spending 1 action or 1 movement point for a player to go onto an obstacle, it costs either 2 actions for a zombie or 2 movement points for a hero. So that zombie with only 1 action can't get closer to Dodge. If she had 2 actions, like the other cards I've shown you earlier, she could use those 2 actions to simply step onto the obstacle. But in this case she can, because she only has 1 action. So the fourth priority is may choose to move laterally or not at all. So in that case she could move here and stay 1 space away. So she can't move here and get farther away, but she could move laterally, as they're saying, to stay at the same distance in a straight line. But that's up to the player to decide if the zombie moves laterally or not. And the fifth possibility is do nothing. So the player remains still and wastes his action. So the only time you can do that is if you can't stand up, if you can't attack an adjacent player, and if you can't move closer to the nearest player. So even though Abigail could be right here, since that zombie is closer to dodge, she would not try and come at her. She would keep banging on the obstacle until she gets to the two actions so that she can go on top. If there are two players that are either adjacent, like here, if the two players are adjacent, then that zombie would get an action, an attack. But it's the current player's choice who's gonna get attacked. So if Dodge is playing right now, because Dodge will start the game, if it's his turn, then he can decide that the zombie attacks Abigail, or if for some reasons he has cards in his hand that he wants to use as a defense, then he can decide that the zombie attacks him. It's up to him. If there are two players at the same distance of the zombie, then again the current player decides towards which one of them the zombie would move. So either closer to himself or closer to Abigail. And if there are two spaces, much like this case here, that zombie could either move here or here and be at the same distance of Abigail. Again, it's the current player's choice. So if Dodge thinks it's a better move or makes it more complicated for Abigail for the zombie to move right here, that's where he can put it. Or he can put it here again if he thinks it's a better spot. So that's how the zombie are played. So you always play them first by revealing the zombie card. That tells you how many actions they get and if some zombies need to be added on the board. The special rule on this card was saying that the zombies ignore obstacle this turn. So in the example I was showing you earlier, in this case, even though she only has one action, since she ignores obstacles, she could go on the obstacle for one action. So that's what she would do in a setup like this, depending on what the current player decides. He can either send it over the obstacle here or towards Abigail. So that's how the zombie play. I will just show you on the spawn card again. If I had revealed this card, then those three zombies would have two actions, and then I would add two zombies. When you need to add a zombie, you choose any spawn point, open spawn point, so you can't spawn zombies in the exit section until that door is open. But you could choose any 4 spawn points and just add a zombie here, and then those two zombies get an action. So you can move them closer to the players. So that's how the spawning works in the game. You don't add any zombie unless you see that icon. So the third step of every turn is the actions or moving phase. So that's where the player will play and try to go to the lab and then back out. So to do this, the options he has are pretty much, or most of them are depending on the stamina of the player. So you get 3 every turn. You can spend, the only thing you can do with the stamina without using an item or weapon, an items card or the action cards, is spend 1 stamina to move 1 space. So if I'm here and I spend 1 stamina, I can move 1 space, simply like that. And if I don't have anything to help me in my action cards or my items, my turn could be only to use 3 stamina and move 3 space. So that's something that can happen. As you can see with the skateboard, I could spend 1 stamina and move 2 spaces like this, but then I would need to tap it, so I can't use it anymore this turn. So I can't move 6 spaces with that card. I can only move 2, and then my other 2 move would be regular 1 space moves. But you also have action cards in this game. So with those cards, you get to do more than simply move. So as I was saying, you can only move with your stamina unless you have special cards or weapons or items that allow you to do more. So this means you can't attack a zombie without either a weapon or some special action cards that grants attacks. So let's have a look at a couple of the action cards and see how they work out. So the first action card I want to show you is Plow Through. This costs 1 stamina to play. On the top left corner you see here the fist, the red fist with the attack keyword. So this tells you it's a simple way to just show you it's an attack. You see here, much like you saw on the skateboard and on the tuba, the red line with action word. So there are 3 different possibilities on action cards. So the first possibility is action. Those cards can only be used during your turn, and some of them cost stamina, not all of them, but action cards can only be used during your turn. The other type of card here is a reaction, so that's written on a blue line. Those cards can be used during any player's turn, even during the zombie steps, but they can only be played when the trigger condition here is met. So in this case, you could only use juke when you are standing. When an adjacent enemy attacks you. So again, enemy means either a zombie or another player. So this is, as you can see, a defense card. So the open end with the blue keyword defense. So those cards, again, this is to quickly see if you can protect yourself against an attack. So in the case of a reaction, you need to play it when the trigger is met. So in this case, if you are attacked by an adjacent enemy and you are standing up, and you see what the ability is. So in this case, you would defend the attack and switch places with the attacker. You may then rush 1. I'll get back to what rush means in a couple minutes, but just know that you can attack, you can defend the attack and then switch places with the player. So you would switch the player on the board. The third type of action cards are fast action. So as you can see here, blue line again, but this time it's a fast action. So again, the fast actions can be played during any player's turn and during the zombie phase. But instead of the reaction where you need to meet a trigger, the fast action is more flexible. So in this case, you could use it only if you are adjacent to an enemy that attacked you this turn, but you don't have to play it right away. So you decide when you play it, but you still have a condition. Some of those cards don't have any condition on them, so that's a special one right there. And the ability is written in black, bash the enemy that attacked you. So it's a payback. You attack him. So if we get back to Plow Through, you can see the ability right here. You push an adjacent enemy 1 space and knock him down. So you would push any adjacent enemy by 1 space, so send them into another unoccupied adjacent space, and then place them on their back. They're knocked down. Since it's an attack card, if you do that on another player, he can use a defense card to block it. So be aware of that. Alright, so now that we've had a look at a couple of the action cards, I want to show you into more details how the game plays. So the first thing you should know is that there are 2 different types of movement in this game. So we've already seen both keywords on the cards. The first one is move, so that's a regular movement. So the move keyword is the same thing, or I should say move are what you get also by spending stamina. So spending 1 stamina gives you a move 1. The skateboard here gives you a move 2. So those move allow you to move 2 spaces, or spending 2 of them would allow you to move onto an obstacle. So that would be 2 and then 1, 1, 1, etc. But when you use a move, whenever you get into a space that's adjacent to a zombie, that zombie gets a free attack on you. So if I was here and I moved right here, that would trigger 2 attacks on me, 1 from each adjacent zombie. When a zombie attacks, he rolls the zombie attack die, and you resolve whatever happens. So in this case, the first attack would knock me down. So unless I can block it with a defense card, I'm knocked down. The second zombie would then attack me. Usually he would also get to roll the die, but there's a special rule when you're standing, when you're on your back or you're prone. The zombie doesn't need to roll a die. It's an automatic bite, so that's 1 point of damage I would receive. If you only fall down, you're not hurt, but whenever you get bitten, you get a damage. But let's say the first attack missed, then I would be up, so the second zombie would also roll the die, and in that case she would bit me anyway. So whenever you receive an attack, even if the attack misses, you can play a defense card. So let's say on the first attack, the attack of the first zombie, I got the knockdown symbol, like I really did. I could play right away in reaction the juke card I showed you earlier. That the trigger is when you're standing up and you're attacked by an adjacent enemy, which is the case. I could play this card to defend the attack, so I ignore that result. And then I switch places with that zombie, and then I get to rush one. So that allows me to show you what's the difference between a move and a rush. The move I already showed you. The rush is the same kind of mechanic where you get a number of movement points. So in that case, I get 1 movement point. But when I spend that movement point to move into an adjacent space, a space that's adjacent to a zombie, the zombie does not get a free attack. So that's the only difference between a move and rush. The rush does not trigger free attacks, but the move does. So in that case, when I was here, I rushed one right here. So those 2 zombies, if I had used the move, would have gotten a free attack. In that case, they don't because I just rushed into that space. If I simply move, let's say I use my skateboard with 1 stamina. I use my skateboard to move 2, so that's a dangerous move where I can get attacked by the zombies. If I use that to move like this, when I get into the first space, that zombie attacks me. If she knocks me down like she just did, I don't defend it, I get on my back and I lose whatever movement points I had. So I lose my second movement point. So I need to spend 1 stamina as a movement point to get back up. And then I don't get my other movement point to carry on. If on my first move she missed me, I get to move again. But now the 2 zombies get a free attack. So that zombie could actually attack me a couple times if I go around it. As I was saying earlier, you can't attack a zombie unless you have a weapon with the attack symbol, or you have an action card that allows you to attack. So plow through, I showed you earlier, is an attack because you target an enemy. Even though you don't actually kill the enemy, you just push it 1 space and then knock them down. But there are other cards like Lucky Shot here that, as you can see, cost 1 stamina. Are attacks, that's an attack action, but it allows you to bash an adjacent enemy. So the bash keyword in this game means attack an adjacent enemy or kill a zombie. Zombies only have 1 hit point, so you bash it once, it's automatically a success and you remove it from the game. If you bash another player, they get a chance to defend themselves, but if they don't, that's again an automatic success. So you give them 1 point of damage. If they lose their last hit point, then they die. If they have already drank the antidote, then they're eliminated from the game. If they had not found an antidote up to that point, they turn into a smart zombie. So we're gonna show you right away how that works out. So when you lose your last hit point, let's say Dodge just got 1 last point of damage, he dies. Since he did not find the antidote yet, we do a couple of things. So first of all, we flip the player board, so it's on the zombie side. We give him 2 hit points back. The other ones stay on the damage side. But he can, with cards, he can heal himself back up to 5 again. As you can see, there are no item slots on the bottom. So you keep your items, but put them face down because you can't use any items when you're a zombie. But you keep them because if you die again, at that point you will be eliminated from the game, and the other players get a chance to loot your body and to steal your items. You give away all the action cards you had left in your hand. So you discard all of them. And you end your turn. If it was your turn, you end your turn right away. And you will get back up and transform into the smart zombie at the end of the next player's turn. So at that point, you simply remove your standee from the game, put your corpse token so you know where you're gonna raise again, and end your turn if it was yours, or just wait for the next player's end of turn. During the cleanup phase of the next player's turn, you turn into a smart zombie. So you remove your corpse token and place your zombie version on the board. So, and also you get to draw 5 action cards. So you got rid of whatever cards you had in your hand when you died. But then during the cleanup step and during every other cleanup step for the rest of the game, you still get to draw your hand back up to 5. A couple things change for you when you're a smart zombie. The first one being you can use special abilities on the action cards when you're a smart zombie. For example, if we have a look at the charge card here, this is when you're a regular player or a living player, you get for 1 stamina, you get to rush 2 spaces. That's a simple card. When you're a smart zombie, you get a choice between spending 1 stamina to rush 2 spaces or spending 1 stamina to move 1 space and then bite an adjacent enemy. So that's an automatic bite. So that's automatic success for 1 damage. So if you bite a player, he can still defend it, but you don't need to roll the zombie die. So that black section here is can only be used by this smart zombie. So if you're still alive, you can only use it to rush 2. If you're a smart zombie, you choose between the 2s. Sometimes you get a special cost in the zombie section, so be aware of that. Instead of playing the regular cost of the card, you need to play that cost if you use it as for the smart zombie ability. But in that case, you pay 1 stamina for either ability. The other differences when you're a smart zombie are you during your phase you skip the first 2 phases, so you don't need to ready your items because you can't use items anyway, and the zombie step is completely removed from your turn, so the other zombies will not activate during your turn. So you only use your actions or your stamina to do things, including moving and attacking, and you can play your action cards, but that's it. You do that, and then you clean up, and every player gets their hand back up to 5, and you're done. You get 3 special zombie actions as a smart zombie. So those 3 actions are on your player card. So all of them cost 1 stamina. The first one lets you attack an adjacent standing player using the zombie attack die. So just like any regular zombie, you decide to attack an adjacent player, spend 1 stamina, roll the die, see whatever happens. Second ability is you can pay 1 stamina to bite an adjacent knockdown enemy. So again, just like a regular zombie, if you're adjacent to a knockdown player, you can simply spend 1 stamina to do an automatic bite on that player. And then the last thing is pay 1 stamina to switch places with an adjacent non-player zombie. So you could use this if you need to move through zombies to reach a player, because normally you can't, as a living player, you can't get into a space or move through a space containing any other character, so a zombie or another player, so you're blocked. But the smart zombie can move through zombie by switching places with them. So he spends 1 stamina and switches places with any non-player zombie. So in that case, with 1 stamina, he can get into close combat with Abigail, and then maybe spend 1 stamina to roll the attack die or use an action card to do something. So those are the 3 special actions you get as a smart zombie. Also know that special smart zombies are completely ignored by the dumb zombies or stupid zombies. So they, on their list of priorities, they ignore the smart zombies and go for the living player. When you turn into a smart zombie, your new objective is to kill every living player on the board. So it turns into a co-op game for the smart players, smart zombies. So if there are 2 smart zombies on the board and 2 living player on the board, the 2 living player are still competing against one another and the other 2 player to try and drink the antidote and get out. But the 2 smart zombies player are now working together to try and kill the other 2 players. If you manage to do it, you get half a victory. I mean, it's not the same thing as actually getting out of the school, but you get the idea. You still get some sort of victory. So that's pretty much how the game works. I don't think I forgot any major rule. I'm gonna just do a quick start here of a sample game and then do the actual playthrough in the next video. So when you start a game, you choose the first player by rolling the attack die. Whoever rolls the first bite symbol is the first player. So I'm just gonna pretend that Dodge will start the game. And the first thing you do on the first turn is place your character on any of the start spaces. So in this case, I could start right here, and then ready all items. My items are already readied. Zombie step, I turn a zombie card and see every player or every zombie on the board gets 1 action. So starting with the zombie that's the closest to a player, I activate them. So I just move them towards me like this, and that's all that card does. And now it's my turn. So looking at my cards, I would use my first stamina to use my skateboard and move 2 spaces to be on a corpse token. Whenever you get on a token, either corpse or the beaker token, if you end your move action on the token, you get to look at it for free. But if I was here and moved 2, I could not move my 2 spaces and then look at it. So I need to stop here and waste my second movement point. So in this case, I'm fine because I moved 2 spaces. I look at it for free and I find an item. So draw from the items deck. I get a 5-minute energy drink. So that item has 2 abilities. Both of them are trash abilities. The first one gives me back 2 stamina. The second one gives me back 2 hit points. So I will definitely equip this and keep it ready for the hard times to come. So that's the first thing I'm gonna do. And now I could use my 1 stamina to move here, another stamina to get away from the spawn point, and let's just say I'm gonna use steady advance, which costs 0 stamina, to rush 1, so move here without triggering an attack from the zombie. So that would be my turn. I could discard, see, let's just say I'm gonna use bump. I had not really looked at my cards yet. So I'm gonna bump, that's for again 0 stamina, allows me to push an adjacent enemy 1 space. So I would just push that zombie back away so that if she only gets 1 action, she won't be able to attack me this turn. And my turn is done. I get my hand back to 5 cards and reset my stamina to 3, and I'm done. Now, Abigail joins the game. So from now on, since there are 2 players on the board, I need to see who's going to be the priority of the zombie every turn. On the first one, it's easy because there's only 1 player on the board. So she would maybe enter the board on the other side. Now again, she doesn't need to ready anything because it's her first turn. So I flip the zombie card and I get Coach Hardball. So that's pretty much the hardest card in the zombie deck. I hate that card. So you know it's a good card when you hate it. So every zombie on the board gets 3 action, and then you remove that card from the game. That's how strong the card is. They tell you to remove it from the game once you used it. So this is actually not the bad time to get that card because there are only 3 zombies on the board, and especially for Abigail, since Dodge is closer to the zombies than she is, they're gonna move to him anyway. So in that case, that zombie would move 1 space to get, again, she chooses if that zombie moves here or here. But as you can see, I want to leave a space for her to join in. So I don't want to put that zombie here. So I'm going to put her there, and then she gets our two last actions are going to be attacks. So before I roll, I just want to give a chance to for Dodge to look at his card because I haven't yet. Because sometimes when you get adjacent to a player, that player can play a card. As an example, you have the clothesline card that knocks that player down. So he doesn't. So she gets 2 attacks. First one misses. Second one misses. So he's lucky. That zombie, 3 action. She moves 1. She gets 2 attacks. The first one knocks Dodge down. I will let it go through, and then Dodge will play Get Up as a fast action because remember, now he's laying on his back. If her next attack would be an automatic success. So since he's playing a fast action, he can play it anytime. Can only be played when you are prone, which is the case. You immediately stand up and gain 1 stamina. So he stands back up and his stamina goes up to 4. And now her last attack. Knocked down again, but this time he's going to use Juke to block it. So you're standing when an adjacent enemy attacks you. It's the case. Defend the attack, so we ignore that result. Then switch places with that zombie. Switches and pushes don't trigger free attacks, so in that case I don't trigger a free attack. And then I may rush 1, so I'm going to rush 1 here. So I get closer to my goal, and then that zombie gets 3 actions. First one is to get closer, then he gets 2 attacks, and now I'm all out of defense card. First one is a bite, second one is a miss, so not too bad. And now Abigail would get to play. So you get the idea of the game. That's pretty much how it works. The only thing I haven't showed yet is whenever you're adjacent to either door, you can for free open the door, so you can do it on your turn or wait for the beginning of your next turn if you want. When you open the door, it's a free action as I was saying. You reveal the card, in this case the lab card, and just as you did for the hallway, follow the setup. So you interrupt the turn. So this is the zombie or the lab setup I got for this game. So as you can see, I had to add 1 spawn point on one side because they ask for it. Usually there are no spawn points in the lab. A couple of obstacles for zombies and the beakers. This is where you would place the 7th beaker in a 5-player game. So that's how the lab looks for this game. So then Dodge could continue with his turn with whatever he was doing. So just go in the lab. Whenever I get on, I end one move action on top of a beaker, I can drink it for free. In this case, I'm lucky, it's the antidote right away. So I drink it, I'm free or cured from the zombie virus. When you drink 1 antidote, you can't drink any more beakers because, let's face it, you wouldn't risk drinking anything from a lab if you know you are already cured. So at that point, I only have to get back out of the lab, move all the way down the hallway, open the exit door, which would have me reveal again the exit card, set up the exit section, and then I need to move out of the board to win the game, or be the first one to move out of the board to win the game. So that's pretty much how Student Bodies plays. Stay tuned for a full playthrough to come in a couple days of a 2-player games. I think I'm gonna simply use this setup so you can see how that game plays out, and you can see how quickly the zombies add on the board. So stay tuned for the playthrough, and until next time, thanks for watching.